Hello, precious mamas and mamas-to-be. Welcome to my mind-opening interview series with important authorities in the birth world. This is your host, Ilka Bee, with the Liberated Birth Movement, broadcasting from around the world. In this interview series, we're going to once again uncover myths, ask interesting questions, and get out-of-the-box answers. All right. Hello, precious mamas. Very excited to have you have another interview today, and we have Carol Kellogg on today. And Carol is a legendary midwife. She is a midwife since 71. Okay, that is like 10 years longer than I'm even old. So you literally have seen everything, and you've been a traditional midwife. So you've been sitting with women and supporting women through their pregnancy and labor and birth experience for a very, very long time. So welcome, Carol. I'm super excited.
Thank you.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your background. How did you even get into this whole birth world, which is such a vast field?
Well, being pregnant was the real key factor there. Second baby, that first baby in the hospital, when they drugged you and they tied you down and it was just, and that's never again. So the second, when I was expecting my second one, I knew that I would never go back to the hospital.
So they did all this shit to women already 40 years ago. So it had
it had gotten better what they did in the 50s. And then if you ever want to scare yourself completely into whatever level you want to, I have a 1940 Titus obstetrical surgical technique. And that's the most horrifying book I've ever seen. I always say that for rare occasions. You got to be seasoned to go through that book. So yeah, it's so we had fairly good in the early 70s there compared to, but I'm not doing that.
So second pregnancy, and you said, hell no more hospital. I do this a different way.
I'd have to learn it myself. Now there were no midwives as I see myself at that point. There were none. So I had to get me obstetrics textbook, which then was very difficult to get because you could not buy gloves, latex gloves of any kind. Wow. They weren't available. So we couldn't even get gloves, let alone a textbook. So I had to go into a medical supply store and take not to my educational investment they gave me without them knowing it, and took this obstetrics textbook, and I think I paid for the medical dictionary, and I started to translate. And by the time the 9 months came around and I was in labor, I guess that was my test to see how much I had learned. I needed to know anything that was probably going to happen then, and it did. So I had this.
How did that birth go?
Beautiful. I for reasons I know now, I didn't know then that I would tend to have kind of long labors. So it was me and the husband and or my significant other at the time, and a couple of neighbors. Because they were all friggin' curious. I think the camera had just come out, the one where you could film the the big old camera you put up mounted on your shoulder, on your chest. Remember, this was before the computer. So sure enough, I just hung in there, and no one knew anything. I wasn't sure. Before I'd gotten this obstetrics book, was there really a zipper? We knew nothing about. We had no one. There was no birth photos, graphics, nothing that anyone ever had access to. So you had no visual idea of what was fine.
And there was
So,
no elders or other women
oh, there was
teaching you how
nobody.
this goes down, right?
No, no, So which is fine. Hey, in birth, you do it yourself anyway, ultimately. No one can have a contraction for you, for real.
Right, right.
So, when you're there, you're there.
Okay, so you say like that, like got you into being basically the midwife that you are yourself
More than
today.
anybody knew. Yeah, I knew more than anybody knew, so they had to, I was the only one. They said, please come and help me. I said, well, but I might be the only healthcare person they had seen. I took that as a very serious responsibility.
Wow.
And so it was. I was the only healthcare people a lot of people saw. So I had to train people. I was doing too many births. We didn't even have, cell phones wouldn't be invented for 30 years. I had me a beeper though. Boy, I think my record is 13 home births in 9 days. So those were. Now remember, I had children too. I had a couple of toddlers.
How many births have you attended till?
Well, at that point, probably by the time I'd reached, I think at least 800 in them first 5, 6, 7 years. All the people that I had trained, I had to make a decision. Either I let them do some births and step back, or they'll never get any experience enough to where I want them to be able to know enough to critique my work is my ultimate goal.
Right.
Right or wrong, I want it critiqued. Of course, I know I'm right, So it went on, and my managerial style with that, but then of course, then people wanted to be my apprentice, which I couldn't bear. How could I be here in inner city Detroit, these beautiful, strong healers, and they insisted that I call them my apprentice. Okay, you can be my apprentice, but I saw them, and they would go on to do great things. I've got those little slides of like people that were in my first few classes. I won't name drop anybody, till they want to name drop again. If I ever did anything to anybody's to help them focus or prompt or motivate, I'll take a testimonial.
Right.
So, but then during that time, so in 1972, I went back to university, Wayne State, it's the city university. And I wrote my first paper, my senior essay. I wrote it it was 2 semesters. I wrote it my freshman year. I started my first freshman semester. I started my senior essay. And of course, it was in how to have a home birth. So that was 1972 that I did my senior essay in my freshman year.
Wow. Damn.
And then I was in Feminist Women's Health Collective. And we did about 73, 74-ish. Ina May would now write her spiritual midwifery. Here we've been schlepping all in the city trying to shoplift gloves and trying to, run on fake this and, no insurance and no supplies and inner city spiritual richness, but financially bad shape. Anyway, and I cried myself sick because I said, oh my God, we're not spiritual enough to have been. Anyway, so I criticize everybody. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. Anyway, so we went, continued on, and in Feminist Women's Health Collective, I argued with prominent people there too. Anyway, he got all scared I was going to rough him up. Okay, I did grab her by the shoulder or by her collar when she said childbirth wasn't a feminist issue, and kind of pushed her, and she left Detroit, and they were all mad. Anyway.
Isn't it interesting that 40 years later that comes up again?
Really?
Right now it comes up again. It's actually really interesting. Yes, it is a feminist issue for hell.
Yeah, because, but at the time I knew, even with them, I was by myself. And here I'm by myself having a baby. I'm not here having an intellectual scrabble over this or that. I was like, bringing baby forth out of my own body. I mean, come on, somebody, can you put some cornstarch on my back, or, little, you want me to, here, I'm asking you to cross a little puddle for me, a little puddle amniotic fluid. You want me to cross the ocean for you. So, anyway. But I learned menstrual extraction and did cervical self-exam. We put together how to do that natural birth rhythm data. That was our work. We almost got arrested for doing the thing on manual breast exams because it was considered practicing medicine without a license. So, we were way ahead. All that stuff would get put into our bodies ourselves within, a year after that. Would be about 76. So then my heart was still broke about all the people, and I was still having children. I had one in a daughter in 75 also too. All of them, they would all be at home.
And did you have by that time other like women around you, or other birth workers or midwives or something?
I had trained quite a few, but when it came, and bless their heart, the one in 75, they were really great to be, to have them with me. But I really, I needed some space of not having to teach. The whole mentor, apprentice, or big bad midwife number one or somebody, and then you got the apprentice. No, I didn't want to do that power play. I mean, it was in their heads as well as something that I was trying to work through and trying to understand. So I learned a lot from them, from one woman in particular. But the ones after that, the 5 that came after that, I did them basically with myself, because that was how I wanted to do it. So I did. So, and I had the opportunity to do it.
How many kids do you have?
I have 8. So 7 of them I brought forth myself at home.
Wow.
So,
and like the last 5, you were all by yourself or with your partner?
The husband was there a little bit, but him and I still fight about it all the time. I couldn't do the man page with him, because I'll fist fight him. I swear to God, after all these years.
So you have been like involved in this whole birth world through your own 8 kids, through teaching yourself midwifery, teaching other women, having apprentices. Let's just turn on this light here a little bit.
Yeah, mine's on too.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So for like almost 40 years now, how have you seen this whole world and birth change in the meanwhile? You got a very unique perspective, because you were not in the hospital. You had your first baby in the hospital, but then you could only attend home birth, women that wanted to have their babies at home. So how did you see like birth evolve, and like how women?
Well, I then went on to help create the first birthing room in Providence Hospital in 76 that actually had rooming in. And before it was wards, where it was like an emergency room where there's just drapery between each person's little cubby or whatever. So I helped design that first birthing room. And I quirked, being a smartass. I said, you got to make sure that the family member, the new dad, gets to cut that cord. Well, they implemented it, and by 1978.
Sorry, something, I don't know. Oh my God, I can't shut this up. Sorry about this. My friend is sending wonderful pictures of her little toddler and a bee.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, that's fine. And so by 1978, that birthing room model and people cutting cords was in almost every hospital in the United States. So so that's one of the things that I decided to do with hospital birth was to actually change some of the things, and I did. So that was cool. And then it was time to kind of let other people, so I had to give up doing so many births, and I still had all these children. So I went and in the 80s then I was still having kids. I went and joined the Carpenters Union, and I turned myself into a journeywoman carpenter and out of the union hall. And so, when a job finished, you could midwife. So I could schedule some births, do a job, finish it, and I could be home in time to midwife. So it helped finance. So all through the 80s, I didn't do as many because I had, I was glad. My management style is, instead of you working from under me, which so many of these marketing birth identities do, I'm the queen, I'm the number one, and you're going to work for me, and you're going to you're in the food chain in my deal. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't stand that. So my thing is, I'm going to help you make your scene happen, because with ego, you'll work 10 times harder for yourself than you will for me, and I want the work done. Totally. So if I had to turn it loose to let them do it, and they cut me out in a minute, ain't no thing. Get out there and hustle that birth business. Now my ultimate goal is really, so now with the carpenters, I have a pension. So every month I get some money from them, and this other stuff. So my goal was, and this was kind of, so I come out of I'm in a union town, and my goal is to have this is just a working title, as you well know, a uterine service union, union service workers union. Mm-hmm. So everybody that's got a uterus, $10 a month membership, and it buys you insurance. It buys wages for health for all people that service uteruses, and education and collective bargaining. Because once there's a big enough number of birth workers, I don't care what, and most some people, they can hate my guts. They can ignore me, they can shun me, they can suppress what I've been saying for years and years and years, because it's too damn hard for them to learn. Shit, it took me damn ass 20 years to learn some of the crap I've learned. I'm not crap, but some of the tech and understanding I've learned. Trust me, I tried not to learn this stuff. I truly tried not to learn it. But I kept getting pulled in, and I kept being forced to see. It was like these glimmers of, oh man, did I just see that, And people, whenever there's a birth, they always are watching the head, the baby head coming out. And when they watch the head, they miss the shoulders rotating, right above her pubic bone.
Okay, hold on. Now we're getting into some really good stuff, and I wanted to actually introduce that, because what you teach right now is for women to take back control over their own bodies, right? And through just teaching them, oh, Jesus Christ, this beeping is annoying. Through, knowledge over female anatomy, self-exams, different midwifery maneuvers. So you are a midwife, a traditional midwife that was never licensed or worked for any state or anything like that.
No, I'm not.
Really worked for the women, and you say, power back to the women. You got to take control over your own experience, and you teach them everything they need to know so that they can learn the stuff for themselves. And that doesn't mean like that you necessarily only advocating free birth or unassisted birth. There can be
everywhere. Wherever you're at, midwife, wherever you're at.
But just knowing about your own body, that's important for you to share that. So what do you feel like, what was it that women
I'll show you. I'm going to do a close-up of my nostrils. Okay, and I want you to look.
Go for it.
I want you to look at the different size they are. Now tell me when you can see them close enough, because I can't see, Can you see them? Can you see my nostrils? I don't know. But anyway.
I can only see your
when you look at it, we'll look at your own.
You got to put it a little further down. Let me see. Here we go. Here we go.
Anyway, next time you're in the bathroom, look at your nostrils.
Okay.
You will see that most likely one is a bigger, different, fuller, rounder, peaked higher, whatever, than the other side.
Right.
And you'll see in my face. I got to get the dew out of the way here. Okay. You'll see in my face that you'll probably see that the left side, broader, rounder, fuller, than the right side.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, if you look here, the whole circle of my face, that shape is the shape of my pelvic shape. When I look at your face, that's your shape. When I look at your nostrils, the left, right, bilateral differences. So which side do you think that baby head's going to engage on in my face? With that big, full left-hand side. Say it, LOA.
Yes, I would like that. I would think that.
Now you'll never be the same, and you should have you sign a disclaimer. Now, when you see women that have a fuller right side, and you happen to listen to their birth story, they'll say, "Oh, geez, I had a posterior." Test my theory. I'm saying 94% of the time, that right side larger face will have an ROP, and it will be normal for them. And that's how you tell if that position is normal for that person.
Wow.
So then, that's all in my personalized pelvimetry, page. I have a page. I try to teach.
I want to hear all about that as well, but give us some more.
That's the whole thing.
This is really interesting. Like so there's certain things I've learned through Ina May, right? Or all my trainings. One of them is like, if you loosen your jaw, you're also like softening your cervix, right? If you if you're relaxed in your upper body, you will be relaxed in your lower body. I've learned some pelvimetry. I stuck my fingers in some vaginas and like dug around, right?
Now, let's look at yours. Your diagonal conjugate, the distance from the internal your tailbone on the internal surface to your pubic symphysis in the front is the same as the length in your hand from the web near your thumb to the tip of your middle finger. That's your diagonal conjugate. Right. So middle finger, from here to middle finger,
like this?
That distance.
Okay. That's pretty big.
There, through the web, not the thumb tip, through the web.
Oh, okay.
All right, from the web of your thumb to the tip of your middle finger, that distance is your diagonal conjugate. So when I shake hands with you, upon the first 5 seconds of meeting you and seeing you, not only do I know your entire shape of your pelvic space, I know your diagonal conjugate, I know the distance from ischial spines by the palm of your hand, distance wide. I already know that whole distance. I can pretty much anticipate the shape of your baby's head because they're individuals too. All of that within the first probably 12 seconds or less.
Wow. Now I'm impressed.
So now you can really function with a lot of people and be able to give. And then you combine that knowledge of your personal shape, which is all attributes. People say, no, it ain't. It's all attributes, baby. It's body love, and it's all attributes. Then when we put our hands, when you're on your pregnant stomach, when we do fetal positioning, I don't want to see no hands all curled up, and then the other person doing the knowing on the touching. Our hands go together, hand on hand, fetal positioning. Now there's some very liberal or front forward thinking midwives coming up with some schools and shit, which I totally support. We need them all. But their picture, they got the woman laying there, her hands are all palsied up on her, holding her shirt up, and they're doing the knowing. Do I go crazy and start cussing? Yes.
Totally. So you really encourage women touch your own body. I always, honestly, I felt that teaching women were like totally like afraid of touching their own belly. I know. And we need to get that back to women. Like, it's okay to touch your own body, right?
You're with yourself 24/7. The pregnant woman is the best resource, the richest resource we have for better, less problems. And it's ridiculous. So you're here. So now you've learned your shape your space.
Mm-hmm.
You've learned by your own, you've got that own touch, intuitive. You can, now we're going to go through the cardinal stages of labor. There's these right here, 2 spots. These are your parietal bones. These are your parietal eminences. These are the only, these 2 points and your shoulders on the fetus, the baby, is the only 2 points that friggin' matter.
Right.
With these 2 points, you go through all those graphics that they show the cardinal stages. And with those 2 points, identify every single spot that these 2 points touch and go past, as well as where these shoulders, these 2 points, as they're descending through each of the 8 stages, 8 cardinal stages of labor, and then I'll come and help you do a birth in your own community. Once you can do that, once you can follow the parietal eminence through the birth canal, because when you can feel this, you can move this. Once you know where these...
So hold on. I got to get this right. So you teach women while your baby is coming down the birth canal, stick your fingers inside your vagina and
well, you can
figure out where the baby is.
You just put your hands on your stomach. It's not internal, it's external. It's just your stomach, just fetal positioning. You know, where they do the stethoscope and listen to the heartbeat and beat and all that mapping, where they call it baby mapping or something. And
Right.
But this is not just static. This is something that you do all through prenatal.
I just wanted to say, you know, like one thing that I've been doing, I'm 22 weeks today, right? But something I've been doing is just like putting my hands on my belly and just feeling the little flatters, okay? And so I know how the baby looks in there, right? It's like, it's kind of in its fetal position. So I know exactly, well, if I feel kicks.
Well, how big is this baby? How big is baby?
It's about like that big.
Let's say baby head.
Yeah, I feel like
pretty good.
So I feel like the baby's head is on the right side, and then I feel like the little flatters and kicks down here, right? So I know I can't hear the heartbeat at all. So it must be turned with its back towards my spine, right? And then if I actually tune in and I close my eyes and I breathe and I get into that state, I can see my baby inside, right? So, but I think that is something that I really had to like tune in and learn. And like, I can feel like, oh my God, now it's like, it flipped around, right? And it's like, you know, it took me its first baby. So it took me to 18 weeks or so to actually like feel the first little flatters, but like to really tune into that being and communicate with that being non-verbally, right? You can, I think, figure out already like how it's positioned. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It's beautiful stuff. It's really beautiful. I mean, I've had so many, you know, I've got 30 grandchildren and I have 5.
You made an entire village. Holy
And I have 5 great-grandchildren.
Crazy.
So feeling, you know, my daughters and my daughter-in-law's stomachs and helping them through. Now, they had their babies in the hospital. I'm not a birth bully. I don't care where you want to have your baby. I'm going to support you. So they had it, but you know, it's a different scene here in Detroit. It's not quite, there's a lot of pressure. Anyway. But you know, they can do whatever people can do whatever they want to. It didn't make my job any easier, them having them in the hospitals.
Totally.
But for years, when it was taboo for, people tried to shame me. Oh, you know, you're going in the hospitals. No, yeah, I was dueling in the 80s. I was dueling in the 90s. I was dueling in the 2000s. Yeah, I had my ass up in the hospitals, seeing what they're still doing, and they knew who I was, and I was looking, and yeah, I'm taking notes.
Totally.
You know, I'm going to back at the bottom too.
How do you see your role as a midwife right now? So, you know, if we want to say, okay, we know by now that if a woman is connected to her body, if a woman knows about her anatomy, if a woman is in a supported space and she's not being pressured and her birth is being left alone and she's undisturbed and she's fed well and, you know, like all of these things, birth works. in most of all cases. Okay, if you're a healthy woman with a healthy pregnancy,
And
you have all this set up, then your birth will most likely work out, and you don't actually need anyone. How do you see your role as a midwife then, attending a birth like that?
well, here they've legalized me. So now if I want to, my little illegal self tendencies anyway, now they really want me to be legal here in Michigan. But recently, last year I started deciding that I still wanted to, I got asked to help women with writing their birth stories. So I no longer am really attending births as a midwife or a doula. I'm maybe, if I was going to say anything, and there's a secret code of which I'll tell you. All right, I'll tell you. The secret code is speculum underground. Anyway, so I might be attending some births as a birth writer, and that's my free speech amendment rights. So if a person wants me to be there to chart her birth story, then I'm going to be there as a birth writer. And I'm going to spy on all them licensed midwives that are out there, and I'm going to write.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
So that's how I'm solving it.
Wow.
Now I hope
that was a good answer, but it wasn't what I quite wanted to know. I just wanted to know, like, how do you see yourself? Like, for example, myself. Okay, I feel like I am educated because I've been in this work for the last 10 years. I know these things, most of these things. I didn't know about my face being my pelvis, so I learned something.
That's the reason why you haven't heard about it too, because there's so much suppression of this information.
There you go.
A lot of people who didn't want you to know because you might not be in their food chain quite so solid, made sure you didn't know. And I forgive people for a lot of stuff. But, some of this stuff is going to not be what they thought.
Right.
It's going to happen, it's going to,
Okay,
anyway,
so I decided that, I trust myself, I trust my body, I prepare myself, I exercise, I eat really well, I do good self-care, all of the things, I don't see an outside source, a doctor, or anyone else for prenatal care. I do this myself. So I truly trust myself in the process. But, maybe I still want support from a female, right, that is there at my birth, that, supports me exactly the way I want this birth to go down. So it's women-led, it's Ilka-centered in this moment. What would Carol do when she'd be at my birth? How would you
would have had to have learned personalized pelvimetry. So when you touch yourself, you know where baby is, where baby's going, where baby can go. Together, you and baby are going to make that happen, beautiful, go that way. And you're going to bring baby forth with your own hands, or with your own hands, bring baby forth. And that's all you know why I don't have to do any vaginal exams? Because I've already know that from looking at your hands. Right. Why would I do a vaginal exam? I already know. I already found that out.
I mean, it's so intrusive. I just actually had another woman on an interview, and she said it was so intrusive and abusive, actually, to have a man that she's never seen in her life before, a male OBGYN, and the hospital stick his fingers, his arms in her vagina.
And we're paying them. We're paying them to do that to us.
I know. I know.
So, so I'm, my personal, and the reason I did, now these are all working titles. I mean, you have to understand, I figured all this out in isolation. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get anybody to talk about it because they wanted to, when they were still delivering babies, I had to yell at them, what are you, stork midwives? All you do is deliver, storks deliver, do you deliver? So I stork midwives, and then, I still, all the ones that are good friends that are still calling themselves, they catch babies. Boy, they get we call it a donkey barbecue. It's an ass chewing for me. when they do that. They don't say that catcher stuff too much around me, but then I don't get invited, a lot to places because, But and then and if when you're denying women the tactile experience of bringing baby out of her own body, I don't care if it's a being, that being on all fours business, whatever. I don't like it. I think she needs a tactile experience where she brings baby forth out of her own body.
That sounds.
And she, I mean, that experience, and this is from having those 7 home births with myself and doing this. I really, really believe that generates a pathway in the brain that will come to be that if you don't get that experience, then a class action lawsuit for detrimental whatever. But I got to prove it. I'm getting there.
Oh no! I mean, it's very known, right, that women have very traumatic experiences that won't leave them for the rest of their lives. They can have depression, they can have anxiety, they can have PTSD. From these traumatic experiences, and they're being reminded every year on the birthday of their child again that someone else. That's why women call it now obstetrical violence, right? It's pretty intense. So it's like when you teach women to first gain that knowledge for yourself, that's so powerful, and then to be able to have that experience of really you birthed this baby. No doctor delivered. And
it's in your hand. It's in your hand.
In your hand.
When you look at your finger, you can feel it. Every single time, I can feel it. I can feel their warm heads in my hand. I mean, I can. So it's a psychological. Imagine the oxytocin or whatever that's pumping through me.
Wow.
Shoot. But it was like, you know what happens to women when you do that? It's like in the construction industry. I had 2 hard hats. One was this beautiful pastel pink, and the other one was the company hard hat. And sometimes I would wear that pink one. And they say, well, what are you wearing pink hard hat for? I said, mood swings, bitch. And I would rev my chainsaw. So that's pretty much what happens to women when they have that touch intuition. And I don't want to cut down anybody's organizations or their money chains or, because I got me a pension. I don't, all them organizations and whatever schools and stuff, they might need the money because I don't think they got any pensions. And I mean, we could list all whatever. Let's see all of them. So I mean, that's So I'm not going to cut them down, and I would like to strengthen them, but they don't. I'm not part of their marketing lingo. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to adjust or other. I mean, and I have not humiliated people over the years and said, too much. I try to, I don't know. I try to be a little bit mild on the Facebook comments and stuff.
Well, not that easy to be mild when there's a lot of things not going right and
it takes a lot of patience.
Mistreated, exactly. Yeah. So how would you say besides learning about your body and learning from you, learning about pelvimetry, learning about all these things, how can women learn about that instinct, that trust, that intuition that they need, where they really know to listen to themselves?
Whenever I go, and I put hands, my hand up, and they put their hand next to me, and we measure each other's diagonal conjugate compared to each other, and we start telling birth stories. It just happens. And midwifery has a super strong oral tradition. Mm-hmm. And even though I am waiting to publish, which is why I haven't published all this for many years, is because I really wanted there to be an oral tradition, and I wanted to see what people were actually going to do. Part of the whole journey is I knew what I would do with midwifery and training and all this other stuff, but I wanted to see the people that I had trained, the other people that came in. I wanted to see what they do. What was their values? What were they willing to promote and snooker? Who are they and why? How are they willing to? Who are they going to snooker? And and lie about? Oh, I'm giving you full choices. You got all the choices. I'm telling full options. Lie. lilac, and watch them lie has been more interesting, and it's part of the process of, because now we're redefining kind of women's hierarchy and our ways. So it was really important to know how we do. And, good, bad, and ugly, yeah, I've seen it all. Do I hold it against me? Women they've gone through so much, what am I going to, judge them because they're not, more responsibilities. Look what they're doing. I mean, my goodness gracious. So everybody does pretty good with where they're coming from. Quote unquote, pretty good. Anyway,
so
I'm a bitter elder. You can see it.
Well, I've definitely have some wonderful older midwives and birth activists and so on in my inner circle, and I definitely see that there is, like, after working on the same issues, for 40, 50 years, right? Like, at some point, like, there is a little bit of a defeat there when you see, like, things are actually not getting better, right? Like, there's more women now birthing in the hospital than ever before, right? So
how many more there are of women that have been in the business for 15 years and under. When I first started, my first 15 years, there might have been 25 people nationally. So in your 15 years, if there's not 50,000 women of interested at whatever level, from whatever level, good, bad, and ugly.
Right.
Now, the most read article from the Smithsonian last year was a friend of mine she's an author, she's an anthropologist, she's not. Her article was "Why is there pain in childbirth?" was the most read article in Smithsonian. She has no idea what she's talking about, but it was the most read article.
Wow. Well, that was a big question for me as well. Like, something always, and I'm talking a little bit from the horse right now, because I haven't gone through it myself. I have a few more months. But, like, my inner just, like, voice, or I don't even know how to call that, intuition, just tells me that it doesn't have to be painful. It just doesn't have to be excruciating suffering. Yes, it's raw. Yes, it's hella intense, right? We're pushing a baby out of a vagina. But it doesn't have to be this, like, victimized suffering that a lot of women, like, experience. So I just feel like there is a power out there, and people just need to grab it and hold on and bring it.
It's this, here it is right here. This, and you'll feel it on right above your pubic bone. Try to find this little parietal eminence. Once you find that, and once you chart where these eminences have to go through your pelvis, so if you ask me, well, what do you see in my face? Well, you don't have to. I don't like to impose on people's personal. I know you're looking.
Go ahead.
Of course,
I want to know everything.
and it's hard to see the angle, but I think that your left side is, which side of your face is fuller than the other side? Or are they the same? Look in your mirror.
No, I would think, like, the left side is fuller. My eye is opener.
I would say so too from this angle. So I would predict a left occiput anterior, which does not mean that the head is going to be transverse from side to side, from hip to hip. It's going to be more that these parietal eminences are going to, when you get into your pelvis, right there at this lip, that one left-hand lip, that one, but this is your pelvis, that one eminence is there, and the other one is going to be up here by this, however, crisscross eyebrow. Okay. So you'll have, there. That's where these two spots are going to be. Now this one will probably descend before the other. So you'll get, and that's where your room's going to be. Now some women have more room right across the cheekbones. Mm-hmm. And these eminences have to go through, and see, everybody says, oh, what's that line there, the brim to the thing? Oh, it's a continuous line. No, it's not, because these emersons have to go through a little diagonal, just like in your eyebrow. Feel that little ridge in your eyebrow ridge?
Mm-hmm.
There's a little right about here,
Mm-hmm.
right into the eyebrow. Feel your bone, and you'll feel a notch, a gap.
Yes, yes, yes.
There's a gap in that brim in your pelvis, right at your hips. And these baby parietal emersons have to go through that diagonal gap that's right at your hips. If that's so when women who are having long labor, what do they call it, prodromal? Don't get me started, I'll start cussing and go hysterical on you. What's happening is these parietal emersons are not lined up either with her attribute of her diagonal conjugate beautiful space or this beautiful space. These knobs are not lined up. If push comes to shove, these lines have to line up with them right at the cheekbone. And you'll save your prodromal people 24, 36 hours of friggin' contractions. Contractions are communication to tell you, hey, it's not lined up. Let me see if I can give you a minute-long sentence here. Okay, I'm done talking. 5 minutes later. Just a reminder, hey, I'm not lined up. So all you got to do is touch your tummy and move it, and you're there. But you got to know where your attribute is and or your backup system. And it ain't got nothing to do with no lunges or spinning or shit going on, and nothing of that. It's a plain, simple,
so
and
I
not
literally
random.
have to just know that. Okay, so what are you what are you predicting now for me? What does that mean? How is my baby going to come out?
Yeah, you'll be at LOA. That baby will, you'll be at LOA. That head will be a little bit diagonal.
Okay. So what does that mean for me? How would I have to push on my belly?
Well, check out the 8 cardinal stages of labor, and that, what I just tell you, is engagement.
Okay.
Now we can then go on and talk about descent and rotation. How do baby descend and rotate? Now, when baby's born, it's only lasts about 10, maybe 10 minutes at most. They'll have a little red line. Maybe above eyebrow, maybe in the middle, maybe somewhere. They have a little red line. You'll say, gosh, what's that? 10 minutes later, it's gone. It must have been nothing. What that line is the eyebrow ridge interdigitating with the maternal tailbone rungs. Wow. And because they also, if you look right here, how your eyebrows converge, these compound angles also repeat in your tailbone. So that baby head goes here, contraction, rest, goes here, contraction, rest, contraction here, contraction here, contraction here, contraction here, and head descends. And it's from that eyebrow ridge, huh?
It makes so much, no, you just literally blew my mind. It makes so much sense that our head is made like our pelvis. It's
rock and roll, baby.
It's supposed
rock and roll.
Come out there, right? So
it's the rock and that's what individuality is. So I can look at a Neanderthal, I can look at Cro-Magnon, and just their skeleton alone, I can tell you their birthing mechanism.
Wow.
Rotation, descent, and now then you're saying, so here I was all by myself. I'd done all these years all by myself. I went out in the Carpenters, did all that, inner city, so, people are hesitant to, hang out with the inner city. We're inner city. Plain and simple, The husband's Hispanic, everybody thinks, I'm only like a white, totally white. My kids are Mexicans, Mexicans, we got some of our kids are, have responsibilities to many cultures, Black, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Mexican. They say, well, what kind of white person are you? I tell them New England snob. But anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, it goes on and on and on and on.
Wow.
What was your?
No, I'm just, yes, I love this.
It's all of that.
I think women should definitely learn this. I mean, this is like really wonderful to know that, you know, you have some sort of influence. Okay, so one question that is in my mind from earlier on what you said is, now I know why I had long labors.
Now you know why you had long labors.
So what was the question, and what would you tell any woman that maybe had a very long labor in the past?
Same thing as I tell every single one. Same thing. We're gonna glean your attributes. We're gonna anticipate baby size. We're gonna do fetal positioning all through your pregnancy, so you have touch intuition. By the time onset of labor starts, you are good. You got baby in a good position. You know where baby's going. You're not waiting until the head's jammed in there to say, maybe I'll start to, hey, I'm 40 weeks and 5 days, and I'm on my 6th day of labor. Can somebody help me? Well, yeah, but that's a little bit, had we started at 33 weeks, that would have been, you know, to know your attributes, blah, blah, blah. So then if you want to do spinning babies or lotus or water births or trust, or who are some of the other, my buddy who started the hypno business, all that extra stuff, all, you know, that stuff, they can add that on. This is just basic birth information. This isn't
right. You should, but that is the funny thing, is that is exactly what is missing. That's exactly what's missing, is that basic birth anatomy, to know about your own body and how your baby might be formed and why it's formed like that and how it's going to come out through you, right? Like,
and it's with this tiny little touch.
Amazing.
It's just with the, you know, consistent over the weeks, consistent encouragement. They're just a baby. People say, oh, babies know, they already know what to do. Well, but they're just a baby. They kind of like mom to give them a little bit of, especially if their little head is mashing up against a bony pelvis for like 48 hours straight. I mean, you know, yeah, they might, you know, but I'm not gonna, you know, but you'll see that like a lot of the organization, like the unassisted crowd, bless her heart, Laura Stanley, she says, my God, she said, my publicist came up with the term unassisted. She said, and I had to go with it. I said, but how can you define a woman's birth by who was in the room or not? Right. With the same thing with that undisturbed business. Ain't nobody gonna disturb me. I'm touching my own self. I'm doing my own thing. I don't, you know. Can I touch myself? Is that, you know? So I get thrown out of
the thing is that we have been pulled away, right, in our own like power of our own body and our, you know, rights for ourselves so far that we believe that doctors and nurses know better about our own body.
And midwives and lay midwives and doulas and all the whole crowd, everybody pertinent except me. And how have I been able to resist all this goings-ons? Is because my family, you know, I didn't get the money, but my family were Kellogg's. They were health food nuts, and they persevered through thick and thin to whatchamacallit with cereal, and they had a TB sanitarium, and they were health, you know, they did herbal enemas, like for every, I'm trying to make it happen for people that have terrible morning sickness who can't keep anything down, a little herbal raspberry leaf tea enema. But, you know, that's friggin' taboo shit, so, you know, shit no intended. But so that's why I was able to resist and understand marketing, because being a Kellogg, I know about marketing.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I haven't learned about marketing. So, I intend to completely, with patience, get everyone to move forward in a continuing on direction that I've always had. I pushed. You know how the hands-off thing started? Was because I had done the hands-on, where I wanted to do hands-on where the woman herself put her own hands on. Well, within a week after telling somebody that, this whole thing came out where I was being, not me personally, but the whole hands-on was being blasted. It was now hands-off.
Oh, I love hands-on. I think hands-on, that's like, I would love to, like, you know, take that.
But they never asked whose hands we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
You know, it's always been somebody, the other. It's never been free birth. Well, I don't give a shit if it's free or not. Hell yeah, shit, I had to work for this shit. I worked for free with it. But it is not, it's about the woman who's pregnant. Not, I don't care about her, this, that. So, you know, but I'm patient with all of them because, good gracious, I mean, they're all out there working beautifully, and I want to encourage them all with anything I can ever do to make their organization stronger. I always will, and I try not to tear anybody down, but, you know, this birth information is going to get out because I am going to publish now that there's enough of you that we've tried all this other stuff, and you see where the limitations are.
And that's why we're having you here on this interview. You know, to inform more women about there is another way to do birth. There is another way to do hands-on, and that is your own freaking hands.
Your own damn hands.
And I really like that. I really like that. So let's make a little bit of marketing for you, okay? Because I said I wanted to get you on this interview because I wanted to share your work because I think it's really important that women know about their own body. So please tell me, like, how can we learn from you?
Well,
you have a website, you have stages of...
Well, I've started it, but it's in shambles. My childbirth courses, I'll get there. But one of the things I have is, especially in the United States here, is I have, and well, internationally too, I have free flight. Because one of my daughters is a flight attendant. Wow. So I can fly. So if you give me a small group, and I don't care if it's 2 people, that's a group to me, and do a hotel where we have a pool party and we teach that through in the pool.
Woo! I love it.
I'll be there, honey, and I ain't charging. I do not charge because I have a pension. I fly for free. I mean, I don't eat much, so you know, I'm not until you know.
Like, I will I will get you. I'm in Spain right now, but, you know, I will at some point. My partner's Canadian, as I just said, right now. So we will be back in the States or Canada for sure, and I'll get you to some of that.
You know, my brother-in-law, now he lives out there. Oh, he has rents out there in the Canary Islands. We were going to come and visit him, but he's back here. Yes, he was going to come. But, you know, it's so hard to, you know, but then the husband of mine, you know, he's kind of, to tell you the honest truth, this husband of mine, he had last week, he coded 3 times where he died 3 times and they had to bring him back to life. Oh, so he's had ongoing, that's all right. We're used to it.
I'm so sorry.
He's had several near-death experiences, and he talks about it. We do our when you get scared and shit, whatever you do to deal with being scared, we do stand-up comedy. So look out. I mean, you know, when you're there. So, yeah.
Aren't you a remarkable woman? Oh my God.
So and he's had 40 surgeries. He had a chemical burns from a chemical exposure. The carpenters used him, the first Mexican business agent, and the carpenters tried to kill him a couple of times, so they sprayed him with the poisonous chemical. He survived, and we got the money. Long story. They did time in jail for racketeering, but no big deal.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so that's the fun that I've been doing too. As a side note, with the 8 kids and the, you know, blah blah blah, inner city Detroit schools. You know,
crazy.
So they're all grown up.
You're a real hard ass, I can say. We're really happy to have you around because, you know, we do need women that, like, you know, they open up the path for us to see these things. So I can only say thank you so much for not just the time today that you, do you want to share, do you have a website?
Oh yeah, we're going to do something. So, no, well, just if they ever want to do my Facebook page, Personalized Pelvimetry. But, you know, I'm really, at this point, I'm really open to what's happening, going to happen in the future is, you know, I don't really have a big plan for how to market.
But we're apparently going to write a book together.
Yeah, you know, I've got a couple of them that we're working on, and
So
So
yes, please
I'm
write your things down, record them, make little videos. I always encourage my teachers and mentors as well, because what are we going to do when you guys are gone?
I know, now I'm 67.
We need all that. Well, you have like 50 more years here.
But I'm still doing my 20-year plan. I mean, by then I'll be 88. In 20 years, I'll be 88. So, us old people, we call it cramming for finals. Anyway, so I really appreciate it, and I really encourage you to keep going with what you're doing, and you're doing beautiful stuff, and you've always got my encouragement, and anything I can ever do to bring focus to what you're doing, please feel free to, if I love doing fundraisers for, like, if you did a workshop on your site and you charge for it, I mean, you can always give me a little bit, but I really like to finance other people's business stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Carol,
because
you're amazing. All I want from you is learning from you. That's what
you'll have a headache. You'll get a headache from it. So every time you need a session, I'll be more than glad, and and I guess questions. If you see something, and you say, I don't understand, or explain more, you say, I think you're shit bat crazy. I like that. That's terms of endearment to me. I mean, most of my friends, we cussed each other out. Probably had a friggin' knife fight before we were friends. So, but no, So anyway, impromptu stuff, and however it works out, that's the way it'll market through and all that good stuff. So,
you are awesome.
Beautiful.
I will for sure make sure to share this information here, this interview. I'll be giving this link to you, and we'll put it up on YouTube and my website and everything so that people can learn. And I will put a link so that they can find you as well.
Okay.
And yes, as I said, not just thank you for this last, 1 hour, 15 minutes or something that you took your time to talk to me today and share all these things, but also for all the work in the last 40
persevering.
years.
Oh, I studied, and it really hurt. It really hurt my brain. It was really hard to learn. I was minding my own business, just doing regular births, and the birth goddess said, look at this. And I would turn and say, oh, geez, did I see what I just saw? It was just some beautiful little nuance of something. And then I would go to another birth, and there would be another little glimmer of information. And finally, about 25 years into it, when it all came together, I mean, it was like an emotional eureka day. So that was.
So I highly encourage you to keep on teaching this, spreading your message.
Beautiful. I will.
Recording and writing books for everyone to read.
I will.
Thank you.
And a bunch of messing around too, huh?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, darling.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us to this great interview. If you enjoyed this, please follow the Liberated Birth Movement on Facebook or subscribe to our channel. If you have more questions how to apply these ideas to your pregnancy and birth, schedule a call and we'll get you clear on what you want and how to get it. meetme.so/liberatedbirth. meetme.so/liberatedbirth. Always remember, birth belongs to women.